Thanks everyone for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. It's post-game Arkansas Razorbacks return home after splitting games away from home. It's really been about 2 weeks since the Razorbacks been on their home court, Bud Walton Arena in Fayetteville, but a 75-60 win over mid-major unranked Texas San Antonio, a team that came in 3-4. Arkansas now improves to 7-2 on the season. We're a little more than a quarter of the way through a 31-game regular season schedule as Arkansas takes care of home court. We've seen it play out a lot against these mid-majors. Arkansas 6-0 against the likes of mid-major schools on their home court this season, and just about all of them. We're going to put aside Maryland Eastern Shore, a team without a pulse for now, but just about all of these games against mid-majors at home, Arkansas has had stretches, trailed at halftime tonight, down by as many as 8 points in the first half. We've seen a lot of these close games, close through the midway point of the second half and even down the late stages of games and against some of these opponents. And today was a little different. Arkansas sluggish, sloppy in the first half, I thought, lacking energy. Give Texas San Antonio some credit there, I guess. But the Razorbacks down 8. DJ Wagner scores the final basket of 3 to end the first half, and Arkansas is down only 5. Then the Razorbacks put the hammer down. It was a 24-6 run opening when you opened the second half and adding in that late three-pointer in the first half for Arkansas. They took their biggest lead at 10 points, 48-38. That was about midway through that second half. And at that point, Arkansas was in control. The Razorbacks would extend to as much as a 16-point lead. The Roadrunners did a good job of kind of sticking around that 10, 11-point range, 10 points, maybe got it to 9 once or twice, but Arkansas really closed the show. Huge second half for Arkansas. We're going to start with those stats first. After trailing by 5 at halftime, second game in a row where Arkansas scores 40-plus points after kind of a slowish first half. 48-28, outscored Texas San Antonio by 20 points in the second half. 48-28 advantage there. So it's back-to-back games when you look at the second half at Miami when you scored 44. But it's across the board, not just the point totals, but how did you get there? Much better performance offensively. Things picked up for Arkansas. Finally getting some live ball turnovers, getting out in transition was part of that. But Arkansas, after being behind in points in the paint, points off turnovers, fast break scoring, all of those things, Arkansas did better than just even things up in the second half. They actually raced ahead in just about every category. Let's go through it real quick. In the second half, Arkansas 18 of 27 from the field, 66.7% shooting. 2 of 6 from 3. The key there at 33.3%. You match what you did in the first half. You weren't worse. You weren't really better there. But after a 4 of 8 shooting in the first half at the free throw line, 50%. Arkansas was 10 of 11 in the final 20 minutes, 91%. Conversely, San Antonio was held to 11 of 28 field goal shooting in that second half, 39.3%. 3 of 12 from 3, 25%. And the Roadrunners got to the foul line and went a perfect 3 of 3 in the second half. So Arkansas won everywhere except for the three-point shooting, except the efficiency part at 33% was better than the Roadrunners' 25. But turnovers, Arkansas, each team had 7 in the second half. Arkansas had 8 turnovers in that first half. San Antonio only 2. So Arkansas got better there. But points off turnovers in the second half, Arkansas won that +9, 16-7. Rebounds in the second half. So +9 in points off turnovers, 16-7, +13 in rebounds, total rebounds, 19-6 in the second half. Second chance points, Arkansas +8, 8-0 in the second half. This is an Arkansas team that, even though it's been good in points off turnovers and transition most of the season, and against these kind of opponents at home especially, not so good in second chance points. Tonight they win it overall, but also second half, 8-0. Points in the paint, Arkansas was +20 in the second half. -2 at halftime, but +20 in the second half, 28-8. Fast break scoring, Arkansas +3 in the second half, 12-9. +2 in blocks, 3-1. +1 in steals, 4-3. Assist, a 4-1 ratio there. Arkansas had 8 assists in the second half. San Antonio only 2. So Arkansas really dominated the action. There wasn't a facet of the game where Arkansas wasn't better. And in the first half, Arkansas's defense wasn't atrocious. But it wasn't creating live ball, getting steals and getting live ball turnovers, which is really the strength of this team scoring most of the season. They didn't have that going for them. Arkansas didn't shoot it well in the first half. And that's how the Razorbacks, they only led, their biggest lead in the first half was 5, 15-10, I believe. And then it was I think San Antonio outscored Arkansas by 10 points the rest of the way, 22-12 and taking that 5-point lead at the break. And remember, the Roadrunners actually had an 8-point lead before Wagner hit that 3 going into the break to cut it to 5. This is, again, another tale of two halves. If you go back to the Miami game, Arkansas got off the schneid against high majors. It's their first win against a high major in 3 tries. All of those games were away from home. 2 at neutral sites. Miami was a true road game in the SEC ACC Challenge. Arkansas's 2-0 in that event. But you come home, was this a trap game? Because you played Illinois, Miami, you had this game, and then you've got Michigan, which is going to be a big opportunity for Arkansas Tuesday. We're going to talk more about that here in a little bit. But looking at this game, you could have felt like, well, maybe Arkansas, after being on the road effectively for 2 weeks in terms of not playing at home, and then an opponent maybe that you don't take as seriously. But I thought San Antonio got Arkansas's attention in that first half. The Razorbacks, just like they did at halftime against Miami, came out with a much superior product at both ends. And I guess if you're not going to put together 2 complete halves, it's better to be really good in the second half and so in the first half. You'd rather it be in that order so that you don't find yourself going in the wrong direction late in a game like this and losing. So Arkansas, again, 7-2 now on the season, 6-0 at home against mid-majors, 15-point win. Arkansas's had a double-digit win in each of its home games. For what it's worth, even though I've mentioned that they've had some struggle points against the mid-majors, they always have found a way here to get over that hump and get it to a double-digit win. Arkansas came in today ranked 52nd in the net rankings, and so this will be another quad 3 win. Arkansas's 0-2 in quad 1, 0-0 in quad 2. This might even be a quad 4. I need to double-check that. But coming into today, Arkansas was 3-0 in quad 3 and 3-0 in quad 4. So they've picked up either a quad 3 or quad 4 loss with this win today over Texas San Antonio that's now 3-5. So by no measure was this a good team, but it was a tough opponent for Arkansas in the first 20 minutes. I thought Arkansas looked like the team that should be have more talent, more athleticism, not necessarily a huge size advantage on the front line, especially with Big Z out today. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the individual dynamics here. But Arkansas finishes the game 28 of 53 shooting, 52.8%. Remember, they made 2 out of every 3 shots they took in that second half to get to 52.8 because they were under 40. They were under 40% at halftime at 38.5%. 5 of 15 for 3, 33.3%. That has something to do with Big Z being out. A low volume of takes for Arkansas, too, at 15. That's not a lot, and it's probably okay because Arkansas did a better job, I thought, finding ways to score in the paint, even though the transition offense really wasn't there until the second half. And Arkansas 14 of 19 at the foul line. I mentioned it. 10 of 11 in the second half, only 4 of 8 in the first half. 73.7%. That's good. San Antonio finishes 24 of 59, just over 40%, just barely over. 7 of 24 from 3. That's good on Arkansas's defense, only 29.2%. And the Roadrunners were perfect at the foul line, but they only took 5. This was an Arkansas team that doesn't foul a lot for most of the year. Illinois got to the free throw line. And going back to that Miami game, Arkansas, I don't think, put the Hurricanes on the line a whole lot. And we've seen this kind of as a theme for the Razorbacks because it's a team that typically generates a lot of turnovers, a lot of live ball turnovers. We talked about that. Not so much first half, more of it in the second half. But one of the ways that you can be penalized for that is if you take a lot of risk, you might foul a lot. And Arkansas doesn't foul a lot, so they don't have a heavy cost sometimes with how they like to play defensively. And you know, looking at where Arkansas ends up in this game, they're -6 in turnovers, 15-9, but did a much better job in the second half. I mentioned it was a draw in the actual turnover, 7-7. So Arkansas might be getting back on the right track in terms of winning the turnover and fast break scoring game. Where in the last 2 or 3 games they haven't been that I wouldn't say outstanding, but they were in these final 20 minutes. Individually, Adu Theriot coming off, a bad game for him, obviously, in that road win against Miami. It was other guys who stepped up. Theriot bounces back today with a double-double, 26 points, 10 rebounds. He also had 3 assists, a block, only 2 turnovers. But he was 8 of 10 from the field, 10 of 13 at the foul line. He missed some of those free throws. Most of those free throw misses in the first half were on him. He comes back and has a nice second half. I think he had 9 points in the first half, so 17 in the second half. Knocked down his free throws, ended up 10 of 13. I think he was perfect at the line in the final 20 minutes when he got there. Again, 8 of 10 from the field, and we know how he gets his. He's not a knockdown three-point shooter. He's not really a shot creator in the mid-range. He is a put the head down, A to B, downhill driver, get to the rim, get him in transition, get him any way you can, get into that basket. And he did that. There was a late shot clock situation where he did a pivot around the free throw line extended in the first half, and I wasn't sure what he was going to do with it. I don't think he was, but he ended up floating a little shot up about 12 feet from the basket straight away, and it banked in for him. But an outstanding game for Aduthier. I went through those stats, man. Big on the glass. Nelly Davis continues to not necessarily put up a high volume of shots, but man, he doesn't take bad shots either. He might have taken some bad shots in the exhibition season and maybe in some of those earlier games, but he didn't take a lot. And now it seems like he defers a lot, but he has taken, his shot selection's really good, and his stroke looks a lot more confident, a lot more in rhythm, a lot more sure of himself about when he does take shots. 13 points, the only other player in double-figure scoring for Arkansas today. 5 of 7 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3. So here's a guy over 41% last year at Florida Atlantic. Here's a guy, back-to-back games, 12 points in the win over at Miami, big second half. Tonight, 13 points, another more quality performance for him in the second half. The team theme is also the Nelly Davis theme in these last 2 games. Great second halves. 3 assists, only 1 rebound. He's typically a big rebounder at the guard spot, but he did have 3 assists, a block, and 4 turnovers. And that was an issue. 4 turnovers for Nelly. Boogie Fland, another off night for him after a great game against Miami, off game against Illinois. We're talking about maybe him, getting back to a consistency level. Tonight it wasn't there, but here's something that I thought Boogie did really well. He continues to be a top-tier facilitator, and then he scored his 6 points. He got them all in the second half as things started to work a little better for him. Only 3 of 11 overall from the field, 0 of 3 from 3. He is a plus 3-point shooter, well over 40%. Tonight wasn't his night. So you put that in combination with Big Z. Big Z's not playing with that ankle injury that he had to play through at Miami. Didn't play tonight, so you didn't have any 3-point attempts from him, your best 3-point shooter. Fland is second on the team, and he only takes 3 and didn't make any. So you got a goose egg in terms of production from your 2 best 3-point shooters. One guy didn't play again, as a reminder, and you'd only had 3 attempts because Boogie didn't take a lot. So Arkansas's 5 of 15. You'll take that ratio, that volume, but you'll take the percentage even at 1 out of every 3 when your 2 best guys didn't give you any of that. Except some of the attempts there. 7 assists again, and Boogie had a big rebounding game. 6 boards for him. He had a steal. He also had 4 turnovers, so he and Nelly Davis 4 turnovers each. Jonas Adu got his first start of the season and played his biggest role. He was 27 minutes. His game high was the previous game at Miami playing off the bench with 12 minutes. And then he missed some games, so we know if the 12 minutes was your season high, you more than doubled that tonight. You got to start. He scored the first basket. He got Arkansas's first rebound. He had Arkansas's first blocked shot tonight. So early on, he started to put his stamp on this game, even though Arkansas struggled early. Jonas ends up with 8 points. That's a season high. There's not a lot of body of work there to go off of. Only 3 of 9 from the field, but he made both of his free throws. 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks, a steal, and no turnovers. So you look at his game, other than not being efficient shooting, this was really an outstanding game for Jonas Adu because it's relative. Even though he's an all-SEC returnee and preseason all-SEC, it's relative to his lack of availability, dealing with health issues, being away from the team in terms of being able to practice and other things. This kind of performance was actually a positive one, especially with Big Z out. I think Arkansas looked differently in the paint in the minutes he's played in these last 2 games. If you combine the 12 minutes to these 27, 39 minutes in the last 2 games, so nearly an average of 20, and Arkansas wins both, but Arkansas got a lot more points at the rim when you put together that Miami game and this one as well, and a lot of that are just the minutes Jonas is on the floor, as well as Trevin Brazile. Brazile was 6 points, 3 or 4 from the field. He kind of came alive in the second half, made a defensive play, a steal, went in for a dunk, had to put a dunk on a lob pass there. 4 rebounds for Trevin, a block, a steal, no turnovers for him. So your big men did not have any giveaways. Your guards were sloppy in this one, but your big men didn't hurt you on that front line. We know Big Z has struggled with turnovers in games. Again, didn't play tonight, and the guys who did not give Arkansas any problems there. in terms of adding to what was another unforced turnover night for the Razorbacks. DJ Wagner, we know he starts at guard, 7 points, didn't take a ton of shots. I think it was 3 of 7 from the field, 1 of 3 from 3, 6 rebounds, another big rebounding night from the guard spot. So on a night when Nelly Davis only had 1 rebound, where he's your best rebounding guard, DJ Wagner and Boogie Fland each stepped up with 6 rebounds, so 12 total. You like to see that from your backcourt. DJ had a steal. He also had 3 turnovers. Now, when you go back to the Miami game, Davis, Fland, and Wagner combined, the 3 of them combined for only 4 turnovers. It was collectively the best game from Arkansas's backcourt. And this one, that trio combined for 11 of Arkansas's 15 turnovers. So your starting guards did not take care of the basketball. A lot of that was in the first half. There was still more of it, some in the second half. And again, most of them are unforced, so Arkansas's got to continue to work on that. And I thought Arkansas's freshman tonight, specifically Carter Knox, 7 points for Carter. And you know, he did not necessarily play all that well in these back-to-back games against high majors. Arkansas split those against Illinois in Miami, but 7 points, 2 of 4 from the field. He knocked down a 3, 1 of 3, so he had 1 of the 5 for the team, 2 of 3 at the foul line, 2 rebounds, a steal, and only 1 turnover in 18 minutes. Billy Richmond, 2 points off the bench in 11 minutes. So Arkansas, for a while there, with Adu out, with Brazil out, very thin on the front line, and you were down to a 7 rotation. When you look at it tonight, Arkansas had 8 because Big Z was out. So they have not really been at full strength. We go back to the last game at Miami, you could say they were, although Avicic was probably limited in that game, 13 minutes because of the ankle, and then he didn't play tonight. So at what point does Arkansas have all hands on deck, everybody healthy, and their normal self? We have not had that yet through 9 games. At 7-2, people can, sneer a little bit about some of these performances. Certainly there's plenty of criticism to go around. There were times in the first half, even though Arkansas's defense was decent, you saw areas where they struggled staying in front of some of the guards that got into some good driving angles, either all the way to the basket, but mostly hitting some pull-up, getting to spots where they were open and getting to the mid-range for UTSA. And you saw some of the damage done off the high screen 2-man game. That's where Arkansas struggled mostly. UTSA did a good job with physicality, I thought, in the first half, challenging Arkansas's drives into the paint. There might have been some contact on some of those no calls, but I thought Arkansas got passive. They looked sluggish. They looked sloppy. The turnovers and the low scoring and the low percentages and some of the stuff that UTSA was doing was just being a little bit better to Arkansas, getting the loose balls and finishing plays. And so Arkansas woke up at halftime. 2 games in a row where Arkansas's had just monster, crazy good second halves. Not so much in the first half, but second halves, and you'd rather be better then if you're not going to be better for both halves. We went through the individual performances. I think it's a great sign that Adu Thero, who had struggled at the foul line, had probably one of his worst games the last time out. He comes up with this 26-point, 10-rebound game, and then he self-corrects the free throw issues in the second half. So you like to see that from one of your team leaders. And the fact that he continues to play a brand of aggressive basketball. Arkansas needs someone consistently doing that. As Jonas Adu continues to thaw out and work his way in, because I think his physicality, his paint presence is only going to add to what Adu Thero brings in those capacities. Different kind of players, but also both of them, you want them to be physical, and you want them to be your arguably your 2 best defenders. You want them to play that way consistently. And again, I can't say enough about Nelly Davis's progression these last few games. And you wonder, is there a point where he becomes a more volume shooter, scorer than what we've seen at this point? But it's a progression. He's been efficient. His shot selection's been good. He looks more comfortable. At some point, you got to think that he's going to increase his production. He's probably hovering right now around 10 points per game. His 3-point percentage has really moved up. He was over 35% on the season coming in. That's going to continue to get better. That'll be a little higher when we look at the stats. The Razorbacks are not good. Yeah, I mean, look, the last game, my in-game and post-game commentary was which bad team is going to find a way to win. And Arkansas, against a Miami team that had lost 4 in a row, now 5 in a row, was the better team. And it got to a point where Arkansas finally got over the hump after not leading against Baylor, not leading in a loss against Illinois, never leading against Miami in the first 38 minutes. Arkansas got over the hump in the last minute 47 and won that game. And then my refrain changed from, well, which bad team's going to win to, well, the team that's not so good. Arkansas went from bad to not so good. What's the difference? Well, I don't know where Arkansas is exactly. You had to win a game like that to prove that you're not a bad team, maybe. And you may still prove later that you are, but at least in the moment and the body of work through, at that point, 8 games, you could still tell that this is not a good team yet, but maybe it's not a bad team. Well, Arkansas looked bad in the first half and looked really good in the second half. So you're still in that framework of maybe not so good right now, because some of these teams they're struggling with are not near the level of talent, depth, skill, coaching that Arkansas is going to face in their next game on Tuesday against Michigan, let alone the brutal 18-game SEC slate, where this is arguably the strongest the SEC has ever been in one season. That's how it looks right now. You saw the dominance, 14-2, was it, in the SEC-ACC challenge. I never saw that coming. I thought the SEC would be better, and maybe even somewhat significantly better, but not that dominant. That was bully kind of stuff. Schoolyard, I'm a senior, you're a freshman, you take your medicine. It was that kind of a thing with the ACC, SEC. So Arkansas got a gauntlet. Arkansas mentioned 0-2 in quad 1 wins, but they're going to have another opportunity. They're either going to be 0-3 or 1-2. Michigan's going to be ranked. When the polls come out on Monday, it was in the AP poll, it was the team receiving the most votes that wasn't ranked. Arkansas was second most, right together with Michigan. But Michigan this past week starts out 2-0 in the Big Ten, a big road win, convincing road win at number 11 Wisconsin in the midweek, and then today a 2-point win at home against Iowa. So Michigan now is 8-1 through 9 games and has some quality wins on that resume. A top, I think the last I checked they were top 20. They were in the top 30 in net. So you can bet that that's going to be a quad 1 opportunity for Arkansas. Arkansas right now is still outside the top 50 in net. So even though it's a neutral site game, as long as Arkansas is outside 50, it won't be a quad 1 opportunity for Michigan. It'll be quad 2. And of course, all of that settles up in March when it really matters. But for now, that's how we have to look at it. So this is a huge opportunity for Arkansas to take the next step. If you, again, go back to when Arkansas has been away from home against other high majors, they've never led until they did in the last 147 against not a bad Miami team that had lost 5 in a row at that point, or 4 in a row, and Arkansas made it 5. So what kind of start are you going to have? You look at Michigan, they're huge. Vlad Golden, a 7-1 big man that's a double-double machine. I think he had 20 and 11 today. Continues to put up numbers. Transfer from Florida Atlantic with Dusty May, the head coach at Florida Atlantic, now at Michigan. Nellie Davis came to Arkansas, so you got plenty of storylines, but Vlad Golden is getting it done. They've got another 7-footer, Wolf, who starts and puts up numbers. They got big guards. They got a big Will Tschetter who Arkansas's previous staff recruited, a 6'8" forward out of the Midwest that plays at Michigan, that gives him a lot of production as a 6-man off the bench. This is a very good Michigan team. Arkansas really needs to get back to using its quickness and its instincts defensively to force those live ball turnovers, get out and win that transition game. They've been a little sluggish in that department the last 2 or 3 games. Second half much better today. Maybe they can build on that and have some carryover. They need to continue to be competitive on the glass. Illinois was the number 1 rebounding team in the country, and as good as that team was, really in leading Arkansas mostly by double digits throughout that game, it was really behind the three-point line. Arkansas actually competed on the glass, was only -3 overall, and won the offensive rebounding there. Arkansas, big night tonight, and wins the glass tonight. Going back even to Miami, some of the stuff that Arkansas did on the glass, both offensive and defensive when they were making their comeback and overcoming for once a deficit to take a lead, they were even better in those areas. So they've got an opportunity to maybe have some carryover as they face the next high major opponent away from home against a neutral site game, Madison Square Garden, New York City, the Jimmy V Classic. Arkansas, Michigan will be ranked. They'll be in that Associated Press top 25 poll. I won't even be shocked if Michigan debuts inside the top 20, somewhere around 20 of 21, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're actually better than that. Based on the body of work. Well, we'll see. Wisconsin lost again today, 11th ranked, so that's 2 in a row. Michigan started that earlier in the week, so maybe the voters won't give them too much credit, Michigan, but they'll be ranked. It'll be another opportunity for Arkansas to beat a ranked team, this time as an unranked team. When Arkansas matched up with Illinois, Illini weren't ranked. Now they're in the poll. Arkansas was. They're out. And we know Baylor and Arkansas were both ranked at the end of the first week of the regular season when Arkansas lost that game in Dallas. So huge opportunity for Arkansas to get that first quad one win, to string together 3 wins in a row. Arkansas's won 6 of their last 7 after that opening week, going 1-1. What does that mean? Most of those have been here against these mid-majors where a lot of growing pains in these games. Arkansas needs a better game on national television than they gave against quality opponents. Again, Miami, I'm not going to give Miami any quality nod right now the way that team's playing. They've got some good players, just really in a backsliding when Arkansas caught them on their home court. Now you're back in a neutral side. Arkansas would love to pick up that first quad one win, extend this winning streak to 3 after losing to Illinois, maybe even give itself a chance to get back in the top 25 by beating a ranked Michigan team when they play Tuesday, then knocking off UCA and North Little Rock. You'd have a 4-game winning streak. At that point, you'd be 9-2, and you give yourself a chance. And you think, well, what do the rankings really matter right now? I think they help tell the story of the quality of your team at any given point. And you would rather that than the alternative, which is to kind of flounder and not be relevant. So Arkansas can gain some momentum here. At the end of the day, you want to get yourself prepared for SEC play because it is a brutal gauntlet. It is going to be that way. And some of the teams that we didn't even think would be projecting NCAA tournament, like Oklahoma, are right now. Now you got to be careful with Oklahoma. They typically play really well in non-conference, and they get into Big 12 play, get kicked around, and by the end of everything, when March comes, they're not NCAA tournament worthy, or they're barely getting in. Maybe it's different now that they're in the SEC, but this SEC is so good, we'll see. But the point is, some of these stretches, when you looked at the schedule, you knew most of it was going to be tough, but there might be some easier games. Even now, that's less predictable because just how good this league has proven to be so far. And Arkansas opens at Tennessee. You come home, and you've got Florida and Ole Miss at home. Those 2 are ranked. So, even not looking beyond that, you've got 3 ranked teams in your first 3 games. One on the road at Tennessee that's even better than I thought the Vols would be. I knew they'd be good. I didn't know they would be as good as they are right now. I think Florida, I probably had them picked higher in my preseason power rankings for the league. I think I had them 4th or 5th. I had them up there, where some of the other projections didn't have them that high. But man, they're really good, as is Ole Miss. And so Ole Miss probably arguably should be undefeated right now. Lost a close one to Purdue in a game where they came back and maybe should have won that, but ended up losing. But when you look at Arkansas right now, Michigan's the next thing. It's the next big opponent, and it's a quality of opportunity. And then if you win a game like that, you're giving yourself confidence as you do finish out December and get into SEC play. You don't want to end up into SEC play with Miami being your best win. I mean, honestly, to me, you haven't built a lot of credibility in your resume, not in your not only in your net rankings, but you don't probably have a lot of credibility in what you believe in yourself and what you can accomplish. Not saying that Arkansas couldn't turn around if they lose to Michigan and finish December with 3 more wins against these mid-majors here in the state of Arkansas, but at the same time, a win over Michigan would go a long way. So I don't want to overstate that or overplay it. But Arkansas's do. For the roster that was assembled, for the talent that Arkansas has, yes, there are some valid issues with injuries and guys not being available or not being at full strength when they are available. We just went through that. That's valid. But there are some other things, even though that plays into it, that Arkansas has been so bad at in different stretches of games, long stretches of games, on both ends of the floor, where you want to see the team to start to connect dots. They have not looked like a well-oiled machine yet for 40 minutes. Second halves the last 2 games against questionable opponents, yeah. So that's something. It could be worse, but again, going into a game against Michigan, Arkansas hasn't done enough to this point where you look at that game and go, Arkansas likely going to win, or it's a toss-up. To me, Arkansas should be the underdog. Probably will be. And then they've just got to go out and prove themselves in a game like that. The first step was beating a high major. They did it in a true road environment. Yeah, not a very good team, a bad team, but they got over the hump in that sense. Now, the next step is taking out a Michigan team, and now you're ramping up for SEC play, and you've got a quad one win. You've beaten a quality opponent, and you believe in yourself that you can do that because you went out and proved it. Again, if Arkansas loses that game, the season's not over. but I don't know how much value they get out of the next 3 games in terms of how much will they be able to prove in themselves just by beating teams they should beat. And then the other thing that's I think is notable about this Arkansas team, unlike last season, this Arkansas team has not lost a game it should have won based on just who was favored coming into it. Arkansas's taking care of that business. So you don't have any bad losses right now. So the sky's the limit, and you control your own destiny in terms of picking up quad 1 wins. Quad 1 losses won't necessarily hurt you unless you just don't have any quad 1 wins as you move through. But you need to start adding quality wins. Arkansas doesn't even have a quad 2 result either way. And we know they're 0-2 in quad 1. So Michigan's the last chance to do anything about that is the point in non-conference play. And then with 13 games in non-conference representing, not half of your regular season, but over 40% of it, you'd like to have a quality win in there, at least one. So again, that's why I'm putting so much light and so much emphasis on this upcoming Michigan game. You're not done and crapped out if you don't win it, but I think it helps you a lot and gives you a lot of boost if you do. All right, 31 minutes in, I want to thank everyone for being here. I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Bob Holt, the late, great Bob Holt, a Hall of Fame journalist in Arkansas, 43-year career at the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, who passed away last weekend in Missouri, which was his home state. He fell ill during covering the Arkansas-Missouri football game. University of Missouri was his alma mater. Covering the Razorbacks in Missouri was always something he and I would joke a little bit about, because I always tease him about where's your heart today? Where's it really at? I'd just give him a hard time. Journalists are supposed to be impartial anyway. He always took that in stride. He was proud of the fact that he went to that really top-notch journalism school there. But I met Bob when I was 18 years old. Wally Hall had hired me to the Democrat. There were 2 newspapers back then, the Democrat and the Gazette, and Wally hired me to the Democrat. My first day was a Friday during football season, and Bob Holt was in town in Little Rock in the Arkansas Democrat office, sports office, because he was going to go cover a high school game for the paper that night, and then the Razorbacks were in town for a game on Saturday. And I remember I met everybody on the sports staff who was there, including Bob, and he was the only one that had that genuine, really nice, friendly smile, kind words. If you need anything, let me know. Journalists, it's not that they're bad people, but some of them are a little surly, gruff, and when they're busy and they're with deadlines and it was a busy weekend, it's kind of like they give you a nod, hello, how are you, and they move on to their other. So, I was frightened at 18 about being around a bunch of professionals older than me, and Bob was gracious and kind. And then when Saturday rolled around, he covered the Arkansas game that weekend. I knew he was going back to Fayetteville, and that was the last I might see him for a while. But over all these years, he was the same guy. That's the point. He was the same guy. He engendered that sweet quality in terms of how he treated other people, genuine friendships with people in the media, and beyond that. But as a media person, he always extended greetings. If you didn't say hi to him first, he was going to make sure to say hello to you. That's just how he was. When he and I were off in the last 2 out of here at Bud Walton Arena or whatever venue we are, filing our content later and other ones getting out of here, and if it was bad weather, raining or snow or whatever, Bob asked me, where are you parked? Do you need a ride to your car? He was always giving folks rides to wherever their cars were if they were a little further away than him. I did that multiple times. Like I said, a super guy, whether we were on the road or here. It was always fun to visit with Bob. And then you watch him work as a professional. Bob Holt, as nice as he was and as disarming as he was just out of his personality, he actually asked tough questions. He asked a lot of questions, but he would ask tough questions. He was not afraid to do the job and get it on the record or try to get it on the record. He was one of the best at doing it. He is a pro's pro. Bob Holt is a legend for a reason. Everyone liked him, but he wasn't just that. He was really good at the job. And beat writing is an art form, and he took it to a level that makes him, to me, if you ever want to talk about a Mount Rushmore of journalism in Arkansas, he's got sports journalism. He's got to be on there. Guys like him, Paul Ills, Orville Henry. There's some other names you could bandy about, but Bob Holt's a no-brainer on that thing. They did a lovely tributes for him today before the game over the PA and over on the scoreboard. Before the game in the media room, I tweeted some of this out, photos and videos, where they were laid flowers in places where he would sit with his name, recognizing him and thinking of him. And it was a solemn media room today. Everybody, it was a little bit different. It's very different without him, and it's an adjustment. So I want to think we've all been thinking of Bob Holt these last few days. Gosh, today marks a week when he fell ill, and this happened last Saturday. And it's been like an eternity dealing with this. There's a lot of folks that are sad, but a lot of folks that are happy knowing that this is a person that made them feel good when they were around him. He was a model for how you should be as a person. Not all of us live up to that. I don't want to get on a soapbox here and get too preachy or too much into this philosophical how you should behave, but I knew one thing when I looked at Bob Holt. I knew that there weren't many that behaved like he did, and it wasn't it wasn't an act. It was just Bob. What a beautiful human being, gone too soon, but his memory lives on, and I have thought about him a lot this week, and glad I got to talk about it and share a little bit with you today about Bob Holt. All right, 36 minutes in, I'm going to wrap things up now. Arkansas 7-2. 75-60 come from behind win, plus 20 in the score call in the second half. Dominated every facet of the game in the second half after not being the better team in the first half and trailed by 5 at the break. Next up, I mentioned at Michigan, the Wolverines will be ranked. It's a quad one win opportunity. Arkansas looks to now push through December and continue to win. 2 wins in a row. You want to get that third one because that'll be your best win for sure in non-conference play before you get into that brutal SEC. But I'm going to sign off now. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. Please hit subscribe, like, and share. Until next time, take care, and we'll see you then.